Hey everybody, before we get started, I just want to remind you this was brought to you by patrons like Ahio Comics, Kwa, Jimmy Vasquez, Kylie Den, Nestor Flores, and Sotosan0424. If you like what we do and want to see us do more, consider supporting us on Patreon. You can get access to episodes early and lots of other goodies, and it'd really help us out. Thanks for your support, everybody. Yeah, I kind of wanted to put Sympathy for the Devil there, but I wasn't sure what the best section for that would be, unlike that. Anyway, hi everybody. Welcome to Let's Talk FGO Wanted, the show where we let you know if you want to roll a 5-star. You get the joke? Okay, cool. So, not a lot of preamble. Going to talk about Limited today. We're going to talk about our second Limited 5-star, Alter Ego. It's going to be Kiara Sessyoin. So, hey, there's that. There's two prefaces here. Preface number one. Normally, this would be the part of the show where if you watched older episodes, and if you haven't, I encourage you to do so. They actually let you know when banners are coming up, and we're not going to repeat wanted episodes for old servants. So, if you want to catch up on something, like, say, that pre-release banner, that would have, had a whole thing with Nero Bride and stuff. Anyway, normally we talk about the show in 4 segments. We talk about their characters' real-life history. We talk about their lore, capital L. In Fate, we talk about their mechanics. Sometimes we talk a little bit about team comp, and then we talk about their rarity, not their star rarity, but how frequently their rate-ups are. But much like Melt, Kiara is a original character to Fate. Now, she's not an FGO original character, but the game she premiered it isn't out in English. So that first two things are going to be clutched together a little bit. If you're interested in the original CCC, there is a full playthrough of the translated route on YouTube by a gentleman named ZVN. Who has done the incredibly laborious work of splicing in the translated script over the text boxes. So, yeah, in case you were a little undersold on how much of a pain in the ass that would be, that's a lot of good work that he did. Anyway, so the second is, hey, if you haven't gotten through all of the CCC collab, like all the way through the finale, you're probably going to get some spoilers. You might want to turn this off. Just saying, go play it later and then come back to me when you've unlocked the KP shop. Okay. Disclaimers out of the way. Let's talk about the first half of the show. Let's talk about Kiara as a character. Now, luckily, the event, the CCC collab, pretty much spells out that in terms of personality and mentality, the Kiara you meet there is mostly similar to the actual CCC universe Kiara. There's, looking into parallel timelines and deciding to model yourself after one of the shittiest versions of you, but I guess you were super buff even though you still lost, so whatever. Anyway, we're not here to make judgment calls on Kiara. Well, we are a little bit, I guess, but moreover, you're here to make judgment calls. I'm not. I'm here to present you the information and you decide, oh, that character sounds super interesting, or I really liked her in the event, I want to roll her. So there's that. Now, there are a few key differences. Obviously, her backstory is different, and how she becomes an alter ego is kind of a thing that's like sort of her dying wish sort of thing. I think, anyway. I've read some of the stuff on Beast 3R, but I haven't beat the actual epilogue yet. It requires a lot of KP, guys, okay? Yes, I could probably try and do some dumb cheat, whatever. You're not here to hear about the big final boss. You're here to hear about Kiara, the character. So we're going to refocus. So yes, there are some significant differences in her character in the alter ego version, but that's mostly just kind of like how she presents herself. She lives a very ascetic lifestyle in terms of she abstains from all the stuff she wants to do to let you fuck yourself over, but that's what makes her playable and not a villain. She is a major supporting character in the future event, the Tokugawa Labyrinth, and obviously she secretly was the boss the entire time in the CCC collab, which, hey, lets us pivot into the actual Fate Extra CCC story, which is, yeah, that's basically how the true root of that game goes. So we're not going to harp on the whole plot, and we're not going to focus too hard on every little detail of Kiara's backstory, but basically, in the CCC timeline, she is a kind of an occult figure. She's raised by a sect of Buddhism. She's very sickly when she's young, so she doesn't get out much, and so she kind of grows up in this esoteric Buddhism environment, and when she becomes an adult, she becomes basically a cult figure. People from all over really like her. They want to love her. They want to see her desires and spell out. And they're like, oh, she's so great and everything. There's probably some sexual undertones here, but also apparently just talking to Kiara is really cool. It's the raddest thing. People love this stuff. People love this stuff so much that they can't get enough of it, and they commit a lot of mass suicide and stuff. It's really terrible. Lots of people die. Everybody thinks Kiara is super sus, and she becomes an international criminal, so she becomes a magic hacker, because it's extra, to get away from it, and decides to join the Moon Holy Grail War. And it's important to note that no matter what Kiara you run into, she seems to be a troublemaker, because she's responsible for tampering with the Sakura AI, which creates BB, so creates that whole problem, lots of other stuff. And as I mentioned, in the true route, she kind of eats Passion Lip, Melt, and BB to become a much more powerful version of herself when combined with Hans's Noble Phantasm, because Hans was her servant the whole time. She becomes basically a true, what they call a true demon, a creature under a god, which is interesting because this is also always noted about Kiara. She is referred to as, a bodhisattva. She has the potential to become a savior, a messianic figure. A bodhisattva is one who could obtain nirvana, but doesn't, because they have lessons to teach still in this world. So Kiara is like, in a Buddhist sense, really, really good. She's really on theme, except that the moment the opportunity for her to be shitty appears, she becomes an incredibly shitty person who is going to eat all of us in her womb or something. CCC's very weird, guys. But yeah, so basically that's the interesting contrapposto of Kiara. She is a really good person, except that she's also a really terrible person. Who knew? But yeah, that's basically her CCC story in an extreme nutshell. And you should be familiar enough with her FGO version by playing the event, and you'll get to see her again. So hopefully that, makes you interested in her character or not. And so I figure we won't ramble on too much. Hopefully you're playing the event if you're planning on rolling for her. And if not, well, you don't have to beat the event to roll for her. And let's talk about her mechanics, which might be the other reason why you want to be here. So you're going to note there's a lot of buffs on this girl. Yes. And not like, oh, she buffs herself a lot. No, I mean like, oh, she's got 2 rank-up quests. Yeah. Also, by the way, this got really crowded because I had to include the multiple variations of her skills. But anyway, we're not going to go there right now. Let's talk about her core skills. So, for the moment, you don't have a lot of alter egos to pick from. There are, in fact, only 2 5-stars. And without even getting into, other stuff like that, where she racks up, you can see... I said rack up. You can see her HP attack spread. It's pretty heavily weighted towards HP. Her attack's not awful, but it's not the best for some 5-stars. And it is a teeny bit lower than Melt, though she has a fairly decent HP increase over Melt. Overall, she ends up lowest out of the attacks for alter egos over time so far, but stays the highest on the HP by a decent margin. So that's clearly her niche, right? So you can look at her other stats. The star generation of alter egos is pretty in the middle. She's got a very moderate NP charge, but she does have 2 arts cards. We'll talk about that in a second. Rolls through all that other stuff. She's got a quick arts, buster deck. She has 3 hits on both her arts and her quick cards. She has a 5-hit extra, so with her, fairly median NP gain, you can run through that pretty quick. She'll do a decent amount of charge. She does have a couple of buster cards if you do actually want to hit people, There is that advantage, I think, of alter egos, right? Having used them a lot in this event, for instance, alter egos are just bloody convenient. And Kiara's real convenience, I think, comes in a little bit at that NP there. So look at this thing. Applies Ignorable Invincible to herself for 1 turn. Deals heavy death-ignoring damage to all enemies. Recovers her own HP. So, the girl has a huge HP pool, and she will minimum recover 2k per NP drop. Oh, and her Noble Phantasm is Ignore Invincible and Death Ignoring. So basically, I think the only thing you can do is damage cut, or the common strategy to counter her as a boss is to use Nightingale Pledge to severely reduce her NP power. That's basically it. Kiara's sorry about that. Throat's a little dry. Kiara's NP will not necessarily do huge amounts of damage. She does get a little bit of stuff on there, but not particularly strong. The primary effect is that your enemy will never dodge this. They will never not take a lot of damage from this, and then she heals. It's a very robust, very steady, and of course, because she's an alter ego, that makes it great for lots of farming. Annoying enemy evades, stuff like that. No, she's just going to chew through all that, do flat damage to them, work through it. So, now we're going to talk about her skills. This is the unfortunate area where Kiara suffers, and is going to suffer for a while. Now, if you really like her, you want her, don't worry. She will get pretty good after a couple of upgrades, but her launch itself is kind of tedious. So the original version of her first skill, Clairvoyance Beast, which she starts with, reduces an enemy's debuff resist for 1 turn by a pretty decent amount, 50 to 100%, and increases her NP gauge by 30 to 50%. So, there, you don't need to worry about her charging her NP. She's got a 50% battery. Or at the very least, it starts at 30%. You can put no points into this skill, and she'll get she's K-Scope compliant. It has a really long charge. Minimum cooldown turns is 7. Okay? That's rough, considering its effects. But she, after a rank-up quest, upgrades this to D+++. Not only does this actually reduce her cooldowns by 1 turn, a 6 turn I think is a little bit more manageable for an NP battery, but it will also tack on a 20 to 30% arts resistance down for one enemy for 1 turn. So, a perfect, we're gonna NP battery. You fire into your NPs, you charge up. So, next, after her first ascension, you get Thesis of the Still Heart A. This reduces all enemies' defense by 10 to 30%, pretty decent numbers, and reduces all enemies' NP charge by 1. This is a very good skill. She's arts-focused, right? So obviously you're thinking, we're going to stall out. We talked about how her Noble Phantasm doesn't necessarily do a lot of damage, but she's got a lot of HP, it recovers, so, healing, tanking will steadily grind down those enemies. Also 9 to 7 turns cooldown, which for a charge reducer is pretty frustrating, right? Normally you'd think 5 or 6 maybe. 7's a little bit tough. Well, hey, guess what? Her rank up also reduces this by 1. 8 to 6. Fairly more balanced. Oh, and it removes all buffs from enemies. So it's just really freaking good. Not that Thesis of the Still Heart was bad, but the A+ is like, oh, that has a cooldown timer that I find more reasonable. Oh, and also it strips buffs from all enemies. Yeah, it's great. If they did actually pop damage cut, for instance, no, get that shit out of here. Get that away. Also, lots of other stuff that removing buffs and reducing their NP charge reduces their def by a decent amount. It's all really pretty good. It helps build Kiara's kit. She's a art stall character. Now, her third ascension skill, her final skill, does not need any buffs. That's 8 to 6 turns, and it's Goddess Morph EX. It increases her NP gain, critical strength, and debuff resist for 1 turn. Gives her invincible for 1 turn, and eats up 3,000 of her HP. A little rough, but could be worse. And, she decently heals. That's a 200% overcharge or more, got some stuff. Or just drop her NP a couple of times and she heals. You can probably NP twice in 6 turns, especially depending on when you use batteries. Now, befitting an alter ego, interestingly enough, despite the fact that she's not a high servant like Melter Lip, Kiara has a lot of passive skills. So first off, she's got Beast Authority D for increasing her critical strength by 8%. Her star absorption's pretty in the middle. Don't know if we mentioned that earlier, but more crits is never bad. She has a very low-ranked independent manifestation, which gives her another very slight critical strength increase. Increases her mental debuff resist and her death resist a little bit. It's not a big deal. It's not really worth it. But her big skills are her last 2. First, she's got Logos Eater C. Increases her defense against all humanoid enemies, i.e. servants, by 16%. So, this gives her a somewhat unique niche that she's already pretty tanky, and now she's got a permanent 16% defense increase against all servants. So, yeah, that's pretty good if you need to farm servants or anything like that. Take them out, beat them up, or stall them out, if you're doing hard content. And then she's got her also unique Nega Saver A, deal times 1.5 damage to ruler class enemies. So, yes, for utility, Kiara is great. Not only does she do that additional damage versus cavalry, but also now she does basically, well, not quite class advantage, but most of class advantage damage, she does alter ego type damage to rulers, which is great because rulers are really clunky, and Avengers can be hard to come by. I hope at this point, after several Avenger raid ups and the fact that there's been a couple permanent ones, one's in the FP Gacha, one's in the just anywhere. You can get Doggo anytime, you've got an Avenger, but if you don't, and you really want to roll for Kiara, hey, she has even more utility. So, composition and stuff wise, she's pretty art stall focused, there's not a lot of craziness you need to do with that. Just give her some other arts focused people to team with, buffs and stuff. Healing, She does actually like critical stars, so pairing her with Hans isn't terrible to, like, generate lots of stars and have her crit big. Those arts crits turn to NP, NP turns into heals, the grind continues. Tamamo obviously goes well with her, especially before you get those rank ups to reduce those skill cooldowns, etc., etc. MASH is a great member of Team Artstall. For CEs, I would mostly say probably, well, obviously because she has a 50% NP battery, or up to 50%, I should say. Starting NPs are great if you want to just drop a big fat, NP on somebody. But with her kind of like attack balance, maybe you don't. Maybe you want to like let it build up more naturally. So maybe something like Halloween Princess, which gives you the 50% charge, and then also the NP strength. There are a couple others in there. Her attack is a little lackluster, but I'm not sure you really want to go like attack-focused CEs. I'd probably focus more on arts focus. Just up that arts damage, up that NP gain. If you fire off her NP pretty regularly, you're going to be healing every time, and you're going to be dropping, like I said, that pretty steady damage. There's not a lot your opponent can use to get out of that damage. So, let's go ahead and talk about her actual rarity. How frequently does she happen? Not a lot. It's about once a year. So, the upcoming CCC FGO banner 2 is 1. And then next year will be whatever our equivalent in NA of the 12 million downloads campaign is. That's where she gets one of her buffs, too. And then, oh hey, remember how I talked about that Kaiten Labyrinth one? Yeah, there's a second banner on that. She's going to be on that, too. No, she does not return for the CCC rerun. She returns for basically Tokugawa Labyrinth. Instead, you're going to be looking at King Protea, which will be an entirely different video 2 years from now, which will be super interesting. But we're not here to talk about that. We're here to talk about Kiara, except we're done, basically. That's Kiara. She's a little rough around the edges until she gets her buffs. The buffs really tighten her skill set up with everything being on basically 6 turns of cooldown, adding a few effects here and there to really make her fly as a very annoying enemy, right? She's just gonna grind down your enemies. Great for mixed cavalry nodes to just keep chewing through them, especially servants because of her damage bonuses and stuff. And she will just keep on whittling. Alright, well that's the episode. Hope you enjoyed it. As usual, if you like this episode, give it a like. If you have any comments, leave them in the comment section down below. I know people love to do that. No, I don't mind at all if you celebrate if you got her or not. That's cool on you. And you can also join our Discord. That link is in the description. If you're new here and have not already, please subscribe. That way you can keep track of not only our wanted releases, but our show, Let's Talk FGO, where we'll be sure to complain about fighting Kiara as a boss. That'll be later this week. And even if you are already subscribed, don't forget that bell for notifications, because you never know when we'll post a new episode. You really don't. Sometimes we premiere stuff at like midnight, sometimes we premiere stuff at noonish. It's a little hectic, but it kind of depends on what suits the schedule. Alright, so like I said, I'll see you guys in whenever the next Wanted video is. I'll see you next in Let's Talk FGO. I'm actually not sure what the next brand new servant for Wanted is. I'd have to double check, because I know we're getting another couple of reruns soon, which I think we've covered all those people. So, hey, if you see a servant who's on a rerun or something, go back and check the old Wanted playlist. There's probably an episode about those people. Alright, I will see you guys in the next video. Thanks for your time, as always.